Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Stargirl the Practical Witch, and welcome back to my channel. So, I'm here today because I haven't just sat down and talked with you guys face to face in a while because a lot has gone on in my life recently. So, I wanted to update you guys on my life because I know a lot of you who watch my channel and follow my story have been asking how I've been doing and what's been going on ever since I posted that video about me and who I believed my twin flame was separating. I haven't really updated you guys on that situation. So today I'm going to update you guys on that. And also I have a special guest here, the Leo King, who is a astrologer on YouTube. He's been on so many different talk shows like Entertainment Tonight, Steve Harvey, reality TV, pretty much anything on TV that's reality, he's been on it. So I feel really lucky to have been studying astrology under him for the past few months. And he was kind enough to come on this video with me to help update you guys on what's going on. And also because like most of my life and what has been going on has been based around twin flame relationships and destined relationships and me believing I was in a twin flame relationship, but realizing I was in a false twin flame relationship. We're going to go over the signs that, you know, you're in a real destined twin flame relationship because there is a lot of hype around it. And I know the last 2 years, there has been like this huge twin flame craze of everyone wanting to know whether or not someone was their twin flame. And I got caught up in it as well. And I ended up, you know, being in a false twin flame relationship. So we're going to clear up the difference between a real destined relationship and a false destined relationship and how you can tell the difference. And this is something that's coming from experience because both me and you have experienced that the past few years.
Big time.
Yeah.
But I also think everybody else has too. Like, as far as maybe you didn't think you were in a twin relationship, but relationships just in general over the last 2 years have been the most extreme and the most intense. And, you know, it's almost like, you know, it feels so intense, the decisions you have to make there, that it becomes overwhelming and it becomes almost like you're in, that's all you can kind of focus on and think about and kind of consume you too.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, for sure. Especially if you're a love addict.
Which I think we all are. I mean, I think we all are wanting the ultimate sunset with the ultimate lover and the ultimate happiness. So it's part of who we are as humans.
Yeah.
But man, these last couple of years were
tough on relationships. And I know that from my viewers too, because I know a lot of you comment on my videos about like how you don't believe in love anymore. You're going through a difficult time in relationship. And you guys really aren't alone. Like everyone's going through that. And me and him have been through it. So we're just going to kind of go over that with you guys today. We're going to be real and vulnerable, which is really difficult to do, guys. But, you know, I love my viewers and I know he cares about his viewers too. So we're going to try to go through this difficult relationship journey with you guys and kind of just be an open book and spill what's been going on. So maybe you can relate to it and, you know, decipher whether or not the person you're with is a true destined relationship or a true twin flame relationship. And, you know, I think the only way you can really know is if you've been through the wrong turn, so you know which one is the right turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only way, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's the only way in anything in life, right? Like, if you think of jobs, like I remember my first job was in an ice cream store. I mean, the last thing I ever thought I was going to do was be a celebrity astrologer.
That was your first job?
Yeah, Cold Stone.
I love Cold Stone.
And I got fired for, I was doing the, you know, I think it was called the spades or the tongs or whatever. And like, they always make you want to tip, right? And then you have to sing. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't want to sing. So I got in trouble for that because I would just say, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Thanks. You know? Mm-hmm. And then I felt bad. So then we tried to do like at Benihana's, which is like, you know, like when you do like, you know, Japanese food, like and how they do everything all like really cool and they throw the shrimp in the air and all that. I was trying to do that with ice cream. It landed on the ceiling and then didn't clean it up, forgot about it and got fired.
Wow.
So that was destined though for me to get on this path. I know it sounds stupid.
No, it's not stupid at all. I worked at pizza places before I figured out that I was meant to be an astrologer or spiritual teacher.
Which pizza places?
If it's a pizza place, I've probably worked there before,
Really?
making pizzas. Yeah, yeah. That was like my job. You know, it's funny because I think people who do this job, they don't ever really, ever think that they're going to do it or choose it. It just sort of falls in your lap because it is a difficult job because people are looking at you and like, you're just as lost as everyone else. But the difference is like, I guess you just don't want you want to save people from making the same mistakes you have in a way.
Yeah, I think that's what a true healer is. I mean, it's like the more vulnerable you are, the more that you expose what you've been through. That's the ultimate teacher in yourself. And everybody doesn't want to, go through that either. And I think that everybody's feeling more the same than ever right now, ever in the world. And I think that with YouTube right now and with everybody, whether it's astrology or tarot or anything, everybody's connecting right now in this like, holy cow, we're all going through the same shit every day, so.
Oh, hell, oh, I can't say hell. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to bleep that out. Heck yes. We got to keep it PG-13 on this channel.
Yeah. My bad.
No, you're fine. It was me. So yeah, everyone's going through the ringer in relationships. So if you're going through that, you're not alone. Even people on YouTube are. But the good news is, according to his astrological knowledge, we're about to enter a time when real twin flames, the real thing, is about to manifest for everyone. No more lessons, no more, well, if you've done the work, there's no more lessons, no more false twins. We're entering into a time when real fated relationships are coming together because this is a huge point in time when the world needs like strong couples, strong people together with the same destiny to make the world a better place. Did you want to elaborate on that knowledge that you shared with me?
Yeah, I mean, in 82 and 83, we had Saturn and Pluto, which are really intense planets in astrology, right? Saturn's like the structures of life and the rules and the laws, and Pluto's the great destroyer and regenerator, right? So think of it like it's death and rebirth, but it really is like transformational. But when it happened in Libra, sign of relationships in 82 and 83, if you look, that was the peak of the divorce rates coming up in the late 70s up into the 80s. And then if you think from 82 and 83 forward, you started to see new kinds of relationships, like the single mom for the first time, gay relationships starting to come out. And then if you look all the way over the last 37 years since the last time those two had met, which they finally met just here on January 12th of 2020. That's how long those two planets take to meet up again. So it completed the cycle. But think, like dating apps came out. That was all new stuff. Back in the old days, like you met people just normally. Now people are like meeting people on apps, or you can even go all the way to like they were dating reality shows. Like it was like a crazy phase of relationships, and everything just kept getting all crazier. Like it was almost like normal to hear like, oh yeah, it didn't work out, or yeah, I've been divorced multiple times. Like, that was normal. Whereas if you take that back from the last Saturn Pluto before the 80s, which was in the 50s in Leo, think about how love changed there through the 60s.
Free love,
all that kind of stuff, right? So now we're in Capricorn, which is destiny, your fate, your long-term goals, and a mission in life, something to achieve big.
So you believe that with this Saturn-Pluto transiting Capricorn, that with the astrology of it, destiny, fated relationships, the whole romance novel, the Bonnie and Clyde relationships are finally coming together in this point of time and is finally going to work out for people.
Yeah, because you got to also add that Venus is going to retrograde here in 2020, and it's going to retrograde in Gemini. And so the last time that Venus retrogrades, always in whatever sign it's going to be of that year, it takes 8 years to come back. So if you go back 8 years, go to 2012, when the galactic shift of what you hear, the Mayan shift and all that stuff.
The end of the world.
But it was as far as the way that we look at our lives. Like if you look at your life pre-2012, you almost feel like when you watch an old movie or you hear an old song, you're like, gosh, it's almost like that felt like another life, right? But in 2012, that was a Venus eclipse. They're very rare. So Venus eclipse cycles come in a set of 2, and then they don't come around for 120 years. So in 2004 was the first Venus eclipse where you could actually put goggles on, look at the sun, and see Venus pass over in the retrograde. That happened in 2004 in Gemini in May and June. And then in May and June of 2012, it happened again. This will be the first time after 2012 and the galactic shift that the Mayans predicted that now Venus is going to retrograde without that eclipse energy. Because eclipse energy, even though it's beautiful, it resets. It also could be, it burns out the sun. We call that a Cassini in astrology, where the planet passes in, where Venus passes in front of the Earth and the sun. And so it gets burned out. So when it's an eclipse, it gets burned out even more. So if you add your relationships from 2004, 2012, and all there, you'll see this pattern of that you are in the same kind of Gemini twinsy pattern, which is kind of ironic with the whole twin flame thing that we're talking about now. Gemini, right? But now there's no eclipse. So it's like, it's not going to be, it's still going to get burned out, but it's not going to be burned out at such an extreme high rate. And with the North Node here, that's another fated destiny point of the place that we're aiming.
Did I tell you guys he knew his astrology? I've been studying under that knowledge the past few months. Like I'm telling you guys, the horoscopes that are about to be put out are going to be amazing because he's one of the teachers that just knows his astrology so freaking well.
Thank you.
Yeah, ever since I met him, like the horoscopes, astrology, the tarot just has gotten a lot better. And I think you just like proved what I was talking about with that.
I mean, there's so much. I don't want to I could talk hours about it, and I have in many videos, but I think those are kind of the main points. I would say that the last point would be that we had so much Scorpio in the last 10 years, right?
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, right. So like October of 2012 was when Saturn went into Scorpio. And then in 2013, after the galactic shift, we had the North Node come in to Scorpio with Saturn there. And then, of course, we had to go through a lot of Scorpio, North Node Saturn. How funny, in 2019, we went through South Node Saturn. That's opposite. So North Node Saturn is all about like, okay, we really need to implement these structures of Scorpio, intimacy, trust. And it's almost like obsession too, right? And Saturn's there trying to be like, hold on, like, but we had to learn hard lessons there. But now with the South Node in Capricorn, with Saturn in 2019, with all these transits that I brought up that have all been building and closing, 2019 was like, no more end of karma. That's the end of karma, South Node Saturn. Yay. Right? Like, so it's been a lot of karmic relationship stuff mixed into a Gemini Venus retrograde eclipse cycle that only happened in Gemini, because every 8 years, that's when Venus will retrograde in whatever sign. But in 2010 was the Venus retrograde in Scorpio. So it kind of was a premonition. But then in 2018, October, November, that was the Venus retrograde in Scorpio, with the nodes shifting from Leo and Aquarius, which dealt with all that romantic love stuff of the eclipse cycle of 2017 and 2018. And then the weird Mars retrograde in 2018 and Aquarius with the South Node. That's like a losing situation in many ways of our egos trying to fix relationships. But we found our heart. It was just like, it's like a movie with actors that were playing the roles, but they weren't. It's like how they have like step-in people, you know?
So what you're trying to say is relationships that we've been through the past like 4 or 5 years, they've been like practice relationships or relationships taught to teach us a lesson to help us grow into the people we're meant to be, so we are ready for the real thing, the real destiny, the real twin flame relationships. And that's why twin flame relationships recently have such a bad rep, because everyone was calling their false karmic partner a twin flame relationship because they were trying to understand why they felt so intensely connected to somebody. And they felt intensely connected to those people because they were meant to come into our lives to prepare us for the real thing, right? Yeah,
I mean, if you take Gemini, right? Gemini gets a bad rap, even though they shouldn't. Like, they are really funny and fun, but there's a dark side to every sign, right? So when you have eclipse cycles with Venus and Gemini, that would be like, kind of the evil twin in a weird way, but not evil. Right. But it's kind of like the twin that you're like, wait, we are twins, but I don't know if I want to be fully twins here. There's something that's kind of off, or maybe something that's crazy, or it'll make you kind of feel like you go crazy. Right? So that's one part of it. And I would just say that, with all the Scorpio stuff that happened, because all the Scorpio stuff ended in 2019 with this last Mercury retrograde, like there's going to be another one, but it's like there's no more major outer planet, Saturn or anything for decades in Scorpio or Libra.
That means it makes way energetically for
the real deal. And Sag is pretty much done too. Mars retrograded already in Sag. Jupiter's out of Sag. So the hopes, the dreams, the positivity, right? Like the signs that deal with that, Libra, relationships, Scorpio, your intimacy, your sexual connections, and then you get into Sag, your hopes and your dreams have been cleared out. There's no outer planets. There's no Jupiter. There's no Saturn coming through. They've been through all those, and they've been through Mars retrogrades.
By the way, everyone, he predicted this twin flame phenomena, or this like real twin flame reunion. Like, what was it, 3 years ago in your magazine? Or I'm sorry.
Actually, Astrolata and I did a video in 2016. And I was like, you know what? And her and I both were kind of like, yeah, like there's something not right yet in the astrology to make it right. And then the magazine that I brought out last year, I predicted that it didn't matter if you were married. It didn't matter who you were in the world, that you were going to feel like something felt weird or off, and that you had to really take a leap of courage and know to end the deepest karmic ties ever. Because Saturn in the South Node with Pluto and all this stuff and all these major transits coming into one time to 2020, I mean, literally, it was like extreme.
Yeah. So, like, if you guys have been going through nasty relationships or like wrong turns in relationships, you were definitely not alone. It was the astrology of it. It was the energies. There is still hope. I know a lot of people out there are bitter about relationships, and I get it. But with everything going on energetically, there is hope for you to be reunited with your true twin flame. And I know a lot of you guys, once again, don't like that term because of how everyone was labeling their karmic relationships as twin flame. But that's why we're going to go over the signs that you are in a real twin flame relationship as opposed to another karmic relationship. And we actually got 8 different signs down.
But I was going to say, we were going to kind of talk about our stuff that has happened.
We are going to talk about it, but let's get into the signs first.
I'm down. I think that there's, yeah.
I know a lot of you guys want to know what's up with me, but we're going to get into the first sign first.
Cool.
Yeah. So the first sign, you're in a real twin flame relationship as opposed to another karmic one.
We have a list.
Yeah, we have a list.
We really went through the list, though.
Yeah.
That's what Star brings,
Yeah.
She's really good at, like, she puts so much time and effort. No, I mean, you really care about the information that you put out.
Yeah. Well, he's the big picture. I just put it down into a bullet point checklist.
6th house, I'm 12th house,
Yeah, we have that opposite node too. But the first sign is like, your path, your destiny. Like, in order to meet your twin flame, your true twin flame, the one you're destined for, you can't be a lost soul. Like, you have to know, like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm meant to be doing. And I know a lot of you guys still don't know what that is. Okay, that's completely fine, no matter what age you are. But like, you have to manifest that or set the intention to finally know what your path is in order to meet your twin flame or ultimate soulmate, because your twin flame and ultimate soulmate is going to share the same path and passions that you do. Whether it's you want to be a teacher, a musician, there's something your soul feels called to do. You need to know what that calling is in order to meet your true match, because your true match will help you on that.
Yeah, because if you're in a relationship and you find that, right, finally, it's going to feel like, you're going in a whole different direction, So it's almost like you don't want to try and get in relationships when you're still lost and don't know what it is. Or if you do know what it is, but you're not doing it, there's something that always comes up to where it's like, uh-oh, I'm going to go do this now. And there's sometimes resistance, or just now the worlds are different. And it's like, uh-oh, how is that all going to work?
For sure. Like, I know, like, for instance, I used to be on the wrong path. Like, I used to think like music was going to be my destiny, my like career. I used to think that was my calling, but I hadn't like done enough trial and error to know whether or not that was the truth. I was still very, very young. So I would try to be with people who were also musicians, but because like I hadn't found my true calling yet, those relationships fell apart because I was on the wrong path and I needed to do some more trial and error to find what my right path was, if that makes sense. And now looking back at my exes, I'm like, what were you thinking? And some of them I thought I was like in love with, like, honestly.
I mean, you probably were. Like, it's not bad that you were, right? Like, love is love. But it's just like, I think that this list is going to help people and realize it's like, love's great and love's beautiful, right? But there's so many other aspects of reality and your mission and knowing who you are and all that stuff. And when you can mix all those together, then you have something beautiful, right? Then you don't feel like it's going to turn into, a tidal wave.
Yeah. And I mean, some people do stay in their karmic relationships for the rest of their lives because they settle or they're scared there's no one else or they never find their path or, it's just like they feel like stuck in a relationship. Even though it's not the right person because they're scared that there is not the right person. But right. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that that's right on the money. But I think that people might be like, oh, how do I know what I want to do? It's like sometimes we get in relationships and kind of, I don't want to say it's a crutch, right? But it's kind of like I've got the safety of this person to emotionally be there. But then usually what happens is you go there and then that other person's not going there. And so then that's an emotional, tumultuous situation building up because now it's like kind of imagine like being on a boat and being like, later I'm going this direction. It's like, but I helped you get on the dock and I put your little life vest on and I filled it up with gas and I did all these things and now you're floating away.
Are we talking from personal experience? I'm going to put the spotlight on you.
I would just say that like, okay, so I'll open up. So I had a beautiful relationship in 2010 and through 2012. And I was an astrologer on the reality show. We met on a reality show. And
can you say what? So if they're curious.
Yeah, True Beauty on ABC. And Eric and I had we became kind of a famous relationship and all that stuff.
He was in the tabloids with her, apparently. Can I say that? They were like literally on the tabloids, which is crazy.
It was like that was the old days of that kind of world, right?
Who used to buy the tabloids at the supermarket? I did, for sure.
But the thing is that I was leading as a DJ because I was always in music. But I put astrologer second. So I was like, I'm going to use this show to advance my DJ career. And of course, my astrology. But that, after using the press and you get your 15 minutes, they call it, right? And especially reality. And then when it fades, I had to really go to the astrology. And that's what happened was, I went fully on the astrology path and she's a great person. So I have nothing negative to say or anything, but it was just like, she wasn't on that path. So it just became to a place to where I had.
Can I just say that's really sweet of you? Because me personally, I'm like, oh, my ex, cringe every time you think about them. Ugh.
Yeah, no, I'm somebody who honors like what it was and realizes, and I'm not saying that you're not, it's just like, for me, it was just a realization of, holy cow, like the universe was pulling me in my real true calling. And the relationship wasn't working in that way.
There's this quote I love. I'm going to keep saying it until it's like over. But a man's rejection or anyone's rejection is God's protection.
Yeah. My mom tells me that one all the time.
Really?
Yeah, because I've had rejection issues my whole life. Like my first girl, I knocked on her door. I was born in 1984. So when I went to go knock on a girl's door to
the horror if you were to do that nowadays, people would be like, look at this crazy man.
I know now everybody can text. We didn't have that when I was 12. So I knocked on her door and her dad answers the door, so you have to already deal with the dad. Like, hey, can I talk to her? And then literally she was like, I was like, yeah, I'd like to ask you out sometime. And she's like, no. I was just like, oh no.
At least she was honest.
And then the second one, which kind of affected me for a long time in my life, was right after that. In 8th grade, there was this girl I really liked a lot. And I finally had all the nerve in the world to ask her. And, I was talking to her friends, doing everything I could. And then she went out with me for a couple of weeks. And then at the end, she broke up with me. It was like, I kind of felt sorry for you. So that's why I was holding your hand and all that. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, strike two?
Jeez.
So, you know, I think the whole rejection is your protection, actually. Is like, if I look back, if I were to be with any of those two, when I went to my 10-year reunion, it was like,
yeah, so if someone's continuously rejecting you and like you know they have no feelings for you at all whatsoever at no point, then just leave it alone. They're not your person, you know? Like don't chase. I used to chase. Don't do that. Don't. No.
Well, I mean, isn't that kind of the twin flame dynamic anyway? And then you could fall into that, right? Of like the chase and
there is no chase. Like that is a false misconception for sure.
Yeah.
Not with the real one. I mean, I guess in some situations, but
yeah, I mean, it depends.
Don't. And
if you're chasing to where it's like there's an obvious no, it's like, okay, what are you doing? Like that would have been me, like going to continue to knock on the door and have the dad answer me, like, all right, dude, no, it ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Okay, so the next on our list is you need to be on the path doing your destiny. So the number 2 sign is you know what it is you're supposed to be doing and you're doing the work. So like if you decided, for instance, like animals are your passion, that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to save the animals. And it doesn't have to be anything great like that. Like, guys, it could literally just be like, you know, your passion and destiny is like you want to teach children or you want to be like, you want to create a small business that does something that helps the world, you know? It doesn't have to be like anything
art
major.
Or anything. Yeah, anything. I mean, anything.
Like you have to be already doing it because the person who is your twin flame soulmate, the reason why you two are supposed to meet is because you're supposed to share the same mission, the same hobby, the same passion, so you can come together and make your work like explode so you can change the world for the better or make a difference in this world during this difficult time. Like that's the whole
point. Because if you spend all your time and energy trying to turn somebody into what you are or want to be, then it takes off your path and then they're never really on their path. They have to still now go down the same roads that you went on as far as like learning the ropes, learning where you're good at it, learning where you're bad at it, learning all those things. And then next thing you know, it's like, you know, you kind of, it's like, it reminds me of like in Austin Powers, like, you know, like mini-me, like, you know, kind of like turns like into that situation.
Like a clone of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like a groupie and a rock star kind of. In a way, I don't know.
Yeah, and like Dr. Evil gets very weird about mini-me, you know? He's like, mini-me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
If the person you're talking to or with doesn't have the same drive or passion or like excitement as you, then likely they're not the person for, and that's going to trigger a lot of people in relationships. But like you have to know there is what?
I'm just laughing about mini-me.
Oh, you're still on that.
Yeah.
There is someone better. You just have to have like hope and faith and like you're still going.
No. We're good.
And like, you know, if you manifest and believe it'll happen, it will. Like, I would never tell you guys something just because it sounds spiritual or that's what you're meant to say. Like, I have personal experience. Like, if you manifest and have faith and believe, God, the universe, whatever you believe in, does send that to you. Like, you just have to have a little bit of faith, take the leap of faith, so to speak.
You can't, you have to. And it's that faith not in relationships, that faith in yourself first. Because once you've done that, holy cow, now you've like proven to yourself and you've also proven to the universe back that you are in that. Think of destiny like a track for trains. Like you're on that track now and it's on that way. So think of, is the other person going to be able to fit next to you on the same tracks? Like, or are they on tracks that go into a totally different direction? Because with trains, it's not like you get a lot of places to intersect and come back. It's not like a car where you can just be like, oh, now I'm going to turn now. So I think people think in relationships is like, well, I can just turn whenever I want to turn. But if we understand whether it's astrology or even in your card readings, right? It's like, you just can't change the card like from what popped out, right?
Right.
There's a preset universal understanding that that's kind of preset in a way. And even in your car, you might think, well, at any time you can turn, but what if there's a car there? What if there's a semi-truck? Or what if there's too much traffic on the freeway? Like, there's a lot of different things that people aren't thinking about. Like, oh man, and it feels like you can never go. It's like when you go with your friends on a road trip and you're like, where'd you guys go? It's like, oh, we're like a couple miles up, and you're doing everything you can. Like, when are we coming up to you guys? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes that doesn't happen for a while.
Yeah.
It's not just an instant, oh, I can turn now, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like sometimes your karmic relationship can try their hardest to meet you halfway because they love you so much, because they care about you. They can try to be what you need. But at the end of the day, like even though the love's there, even though they're trying, you know it's not right because, you know, it's just not meeting up. It's like you said, just a missed connection. And I think a lot of people just settle for the, just settle because, you know, they just feel comfortable with it, I guess.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, that's okay. I mean, it's like, and I think the number one thing is having compassion for yourself and also not letting guilt in yourself, because I think this goes, you know, a little bit into the way that the world has been creating these beliefs and ideas about how we should be. There's so many shoulds. That's why also the South Node is with Capricorn with Jupiter. So it's like that happened during that Saturn-Pluto, that happened during the eclipse cycle at the beginning of 2020, that all the old beliefs of how we should be doing things and how the structures are, they go back to like the 1280s. That was the last time Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto were in Capricorn. That's when, you know, it was old school. It was like, I must do this. The church tells me it's this way, and I have to be, if I don't do this, I'm going to hell. That's embedded in our subconscious of guilt deeply. And the reason why marriage had come up was to get to make sure that everybody was joining the church. So that you would only have a partner that, you know, was in that church, and anybody who was not in it, it was like, ooh. But nobody was even allowed to get a divorce until the 1500s, which was the last Saturn Pluto by itself, actually, when King Henry VIII went against the church and created the Church of England. So
he's the one with the 8 wives, right?
We didn't
and
have
he chopped
eight,
off
but,
all their heads.
I mean, he didn't chop off all their heads, but he did have multiple wives. You know, he had over 3. But yeah, he had to go through the Pope to get the divorce and to try to get an annulment. That's where annulments kind of came from. Like, well, this wasn't the right thing, and and the Pope was like, kind of no, and he was just like, well, I'm going to go make my own church. So you don't want to get stuck in those kind of situations, because actually, that's the subconscious kind of. I mean, honestly, people are kind of living off old iPhone. Like, imagine if you were on your first iPhone and the first software that came with it, and you're trying to load all these new programs in it. It would freeze. It would do all those things. That's how you kind of have to look at this.
Yeah. It's like, do you want to be comfortable, or do you want to be uncomfortable for a second and go out and find like what it is your soul actually wants, you know? Which goes on to the third thing you have to do to find your twin flame, or the third sign, whatever, however I'm going to name this video. I'm not even sure yet. You have to be on the path spiritually. And that doesn't mean, like, both me and him actually agree on this, where like spirituality isn't about like lighting candles and like taking out your yoga mat and doing like and stacking rocks on a mountain or some crap like that. It's just like making the decision to be your authentic self and like try to improve as a person, and like be aware that there's more going on than this 3D life, you know?
Yeah, because that's what, I mean, spirituality, I mean, spirit, right, is your own inner spirit. And spirit is like, right? So they always tell cheerleaders, like, peace, bring your spirit, great spirit to it, you know?
Yeah.
Right? It's just that positive vibe of yourself. Like, it's positive. It feels good. It feels happy, you know? And so it's like this, and then, you know, spirituality gets kind of like in this place where it's like, did you drink a green juice this morning and do yoga? These are actually becoming like how the church was in creating these things. And it's like spirituality is so against the old way, yet it almost is bringing back the old ways.
Yeah, like for
you know
sure.
What I mean?
Yeah,
so
I totally agree with you.
It's about what makes you feel good. And I think the best thing you said was about being aware that there is something unique about this place. It's not just so cut and dry of what we've been told in schools and on television and all this stuff. It's like, there's something else going on that we...
Yeah, and you guys know this. If you do pick a cards and it's been accurate, how do you know that? How are you picking the right card? How is astrology accurate? Because there is more than what we can physically see.
Totally, 100%. And if you're not on that path in your own life, so sure, you might find the second one, right? Like as you find your path as far as your goals and your mission. But that third one is like, do you have the embodiment where you're awake? Or some people are saying the term woke now, which I think is kind of a...
Woke AF.
Yeah. But I think that this is like a time where it's like, when you combine that awareness and your mission, oh, that's when they sync up for your own self. So how are you going to find a partner if maybe they're on their same mission? Maybe you both are salesmen. You're like, oh yeah, but you're like, so I'm doing really well right now because right now, this planet's here and I just watched Stargirl and like, I picked pile number 2 and this is going down this month and da-da-da. And then they're like, I don't believe in any of that stuff.
Yeah, like how's that going to work too?
Like
they don't share the same core belief? What?
Goodbye.
Which leads us to our fourth way to attract, or fourth sign, way to attract, whatever. There needs to be goals besides a basic plan of life. So pretty much you guys share the same goal, because soulmates, twin flames, they aren't just there to be in love. They're there to also help humanity or for a higher cause, because pretty much our whole purpose as healers or light workers or people on this planet who are awoke is to make the world a better place through service. And that's what ultimately everyone should be doing, because we need as much people as possible.
Yeah.
Not just people on YouTube with spiritual channels like him and me and whoever else. It's pretty much about making the world a better place, using your own talents and skills and being your own person. And your soulmate's going to match that a lot.
Yeah, because I think the basic life thing is like, sure, you want to have those plans of like, oh, are we going to buy a home? Are we going to live in an apartment? Are we going to get a dog? Or are we going to have both, a cat? Or are we going to have a pig? Or are we going to have, right? So these are beautiful things to have. But you'll thrive the most because those are temporary, right? What happens when you get the house and then you get the furniture and then you get the TV and there's that excitement for that first couple of weeks. And then what happens? You're in the same, it's not that it's bad, but you're just kind of like, okay, that happened. And then what most people do is they just start going out and buying something new, or like, we need to go take a vacation now.
Having kids.
Right. Or
distractions.
I mean, and that might not be a bad thing.
Like distractions from your relationship because it's empty.
And I think when you find something that makes you thrive together, like, and I think that you said it best, Star, like it doesn't have to be whenever I think she or even I'm right now talking about is like, it doesn't have to be like you need to be the biggest spiritual leader of the world. I mean, it's as simple as like, we want to help dogs or something and going to the shelters and helping them. Like right now, the world, as you can see it, needs to come back together as far as a community, as far as people feeling like people are there. The most amazing things there are out in the world when people are out in the world doing things together.
Yes, like I've seen a lot of twin flame relationship couples on YouTube who are both wanting to live off grid and like conserve on waste. Like that, what they're doing together is a very good example of a twin flame relationship, It's an adventure, really, because that's what a belief is. It's an adventure. There is no data to really prove it. So you have to kind of go out there and you have to seek it. And there's nothing better in a relationship than going on an adventure. I think vacations turn into adventures for people, but they're limited to what the hotel's telling you to do and the flights. And those are all great. But when you can create your own adventure and it's got something that feels good, there's something about, whether we call that God, creator, spirit, that helps that thrive. And I feel that that's the ultimate glue, right? Like that's a super glue, and it's more than like, okay, the basic stuff like sex or stuff like that. Like those things are part of basic life, but they're not going to be the ultimate glue. Yeah, those things can't last forever.
I just think that the world now, right. We're all going to get old one day, right? I'm sure we can all still be doing stuff like that, but it's like, if there's nothing to feel in your partner and together and be like, wow, look at where we both individually are doing something and together creating something, that's the ultimate adventure. And usually on those adventures, you can have a vacation within the adventure, or you can do all the things that you want in your life. And the last thing you're going to think about is that couch that you got in the house with the TV that was exciting at once. Like you have so many other things in life that you're excited about.
No, I totally agree. Because I know I've been in relationships where the only thing we had together was the relationship. So it was like, okay, we're going to get married. We're picking out the ring. We're getting your apartment. We're decorating it. But after those steps were gone, it was like, now what?
Yeah.
Now what are we going to do?
And that's for people, I think it feels like, kind of a, bicycle with the chain off. Like, oh, like, and then it feels like you're pushing as hard as you can. And then that's when weird stuff starts to come out. And then especially, I think that's why the other steps come before this, because it's like, then you're like, well, now I got to go find something in my life. Mm-hmm. So you usually don't make it to this step if you had the other steps done in front of yourself.
Yeah.
So what's number 5? Oh yeah, this one is you have to want one.
Yeah, you have to want a twin flame or destined relationship, because that want is like coming from your soul knowing it's out there, kind of like your destiny. You want to pursue art because it's part of your destiny. You get passionate to pursue something because it's part of your soul and your destiny. And in order to have a destined relationship or a twin flame relationship, you have to feel like you want it, because that's a sign it's a part of your destiny.
Yeah, because if you don't really want one and you just want to be alone on your journey, like that's something that should be clear, right? Because it's like, if you just want to do it alone, then go do it alone. There's nothing wrong with that.
That could be your destiny to do it alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Or till later in life, But I know personally, I've always wanted like that twin flame. I'm such a sucker for romance, but I've always wanted that, like a partner in crime, Bonnie and Clyde. Like, what about you?
I mean, yeah, I'm a Leo.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, yeah, it's always been about like this big mission, because to me, like the basic life stuff, I just, there's something that's like, I'm like, there's so much more. There's so much more out there to go do. And it's like, there's so much about masculine, feminine right now too, right? Divine masculine, divine feminine. Like relationships, there might be a divine masculine with just a feminine, not divine. Or it might be a divine feminine now with like a no masculine, right?
Yeah, and this isn't limited to like heterosexual, by the way. It's
right.
Like all sexual, whatever sexual.
But there's still a feminine, masculine in any buddy, right? So it's like when the divine, I think that's where divine comes from, and I also think that it's divine unions. I think that's like going to be the new name. The twin flames is going to shift to like a divine union. Because it's a divine union of the feminine and the masculine. And that is a beautiful, and again, like Star said, it doesn't matter, what you are or anything like that, but there's that that's what sinks in the universe. That positive, that negative, like a battery that is powerful. And there's something that this is different. This is now a time where you really have to want it, because you don't want to be with somebody who is, I'm kind of wanting to maybe be on my own path, but I kind of want to be in this. Like you have to have somebody that wants it just as bad as you do.
Exactly. Amen. Because ladies, don't chase.
Like that's going to be the only way that you're going to be able to go the distance on the adventure, to the journey, to the mission, that's the afterburners. Like the people, whether you believe people went to the moon or not, if they did or they didn't, man, you have to have that want to be in that capsule and be like, we're strapped to the rocket. Are you with me on this ride? Even if it's like, whatever. In that case, of course, they weren't relationships, but they were friendships. They were astronauts together. Like you had to look over and be like, you want this too? Like, I don't want to blow up, or I don't want to die, or we got it. That's the feeling I feel like. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Okay. So the sixth sign, or the sixth, what are we going to call it? Oh yeah. The sixth sign, you are in a destined, fated relationship, previously known as a twin flame relationship, except a real twin flame relationship, is it may not be socially acceptable to be with your twin. Like a lot of people might be like, why are you with them? That makes no sense whatsoever. And that's because these relationships defy explanation. They're like, it's something that other people won't understand, because it's only something, I'm not explaining this clear. You did a better job of explaining it, so I'm going to just let you.
Well, I think we all are unique individual souls, right? We all have our own journeys. Right. And so the way that the universe kind of has been set up for humans lately is humans patrolling other humans. You should do this. I think that you should do that. We see it usually with families first. Then, of course, there's friends. And then there's colleagues, and then there's all this. And it's like, who's to determine your own happiness other than yourself.
But it's not like if somebody's abusive and your family and friends are saying, hey, that person's not good because they do messed up things you should probably definitely listen to them. But it's more about when like they don't know what your relationship is like. They have no like, they don't see them mistreating you. They're just solely coming at it from a biased point of view where they feel like they know who is best for you.
Yeah. And I think today in social media world too, right? It's like everybody starts to kind of grow assumptions on things, right? And then like, I'm sure you've experienced it being public. I've experienced it. Like I've had stalkers show up here to like my studio, or like people telling me that I am their twin. I've never met them in their life, in another state, another country. You ever got any of that?
Pretty people problems. You were on Sure Beauty, so what do you expect?
No, I'm just saying that I feel that the social thing is also the social media thing, right? And then also people kind of feel like they own other people sometimes, right? Like it's like weird. Like they're like, a
Cancers.
friend.
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, like, I mean, like, like a friend or even like somebody online who just feels that they watch you or they see you and they're like, I know what's best for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's that whole energy. And so it's like, how are we going to be a collective if nobody can unite? If everybody can't know, it's not like you're going to go tell somebody like, I think that you should eat this because that'll be better for you. Like, it's like, I like this color, this sparkling water better than that one. Why are you to tell me that I should like that flavor more than that flavor?
Yeah.
And there's so many people today that have fought. We're so lucky to be in today's world. We had Martin Luther King fight for racial, justice in America, and then Lincoln in the Civil War. So you can go into these battles that have gone on for people to just be truly who they are. But the last battle left is when people are trying to tell people who they should love and who they should not, and also creating ownership and then creating drama. And there's so much of that now. When they're not even knowing the whole stories, they're not even knowing the whole backstories, they're not knowing anything. They're like, right? It's like everybody's out to judge now. And that's the whole thing of the Libra cycle ending, is that that's judgment too. That this ultimate, that who should be the judge of another person's happiness.
Right. So also, like, to reiterate on that, like, the person for you might differ than your usual type. You might be in your head like your mom taught you growing up, you need to be with the rich guy so he can take care of you. And your mom taught you growing up that, your marriage life needs to look like this. But then your twin flame soulmate could be someone who maybe isn't like the richest and instead shares your passions and your hobbies and isn't what you thought you needed in order to have the perfect relationship. Right. So your destined relationship, like you were saying, is going to go against what everyone expects of you and go towards what you want for yourself that makes you feel fulfilled.
Well, and then there's the opposite, where there's going to be people that totally accept it, right? That socially they're going to accept it. You're going to see both sides, but that's going to help you determine who really truly cares about you too, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's going to help you determine your friends more. That's going to help you determine the people that you're around. Because if everybody's just projecting out their own idea for you and everything, and it's like, do you really want to go through that where you're feeling like, wow, I have to make it? It reminds me of arranged marriages, right? How many years in India have they been going through arranged marriages, right? Or even the way that kings and queens were set up all through the last, 500 years, especially. It was like arranged marriage, so like they were pre-setting the marriage right when the baby was born. Like it was like, okay, yeah, you're going to do that. And it was all for some other power play. That energy we're trying to clear too with this karma clearing of 2019 into 2020. Like it's like that whole entire old system. Look at Harry and Meghan and the whole Megxit.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right? Like they're royals. And even though that's the other thing. She's American. She was an actress. And then she had to go become a princess basically. And have to wear the clothes, and the queen was telling her you have to do all this stuff, and obviously she was not dealing with that.
And like he said, like everyone had a problem with their relationship because they called her a gold digger, or they called her like a clout chaser. They called her a bunch of awful things, but they didn't let it get to them. They're still doing their thing. And she even gave up the whole royal life to be with him. So it's like people are going to say a lot of nasty things.
Well, and especially he gave up his. I mean, he's like the head of different parts of the military. He's got roles as a royal that you have to play and be. And so he's giving up all those aspects, including the money for the place. Like, they get paid bank.
Yeah. And also John Lennon and Yoko Ono. John Lennon, I think, was quitting the Beatles for Yoko Ono. And, Yoko Ono was like considered...
She was older than him.
Yeah, everyone hated on her, but they were both working together to end the war, and they were both in love, despite... And
he was married right before they met and got together and got out of that.
We're not promoting any home wrecking here.
But I'm saying that he got out of the relationship and then went into that one.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I'm not saying that they jumped ships, but I'm just saying that, it was like totally different vibe from what he had before. And maybe they all didn't understand it, but then they also did come out, and they are a good example of like, whoa, like they had a whole different vibe, right? You don't think about the other Beatles having that with a partnership.
No, it's like,
like
divine
whoa.
Unions, they are that whoa couple, right?
100%.
Like the ones you hear about in history, like John Lennon, Yoko Ono, you know what I mean? They have a powerful energy, even if it's not famous, just like people go, oh, that couple, they're doing this together, it's that energy, that it factor.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of... That's, I think, the true test, though, is the social element, what people say. And in this social media world, I mean, geez, like, people get hurt by comments now. I know I do. I know that no matter how long I've been on YouTube for almost 10 years. That was so many harsh comments. And I'm like, okay, like... No matter how much I say, like, it doesn't get to me. There's just some that really do. Mm-hmm. But how do you think that affects like a relationship if like it's true love and true happiness and it makes sense and you've gone through so many of those steps? That's where you're going to have to be like, okay, anything beautiful always meets resistance. Martin Luther King met resistance. I mean, everything, JFK met resistance. John Lennon met resistance and even actually got murdered, unfortunately.
I totally agree. Like, if you have that powerful energy, there's going to be so many people attracted to that energy. And unfortunately, some of it will be negative because your energy is so powerful that you have the ability to trigger someone in some sort of way, if that makes sense.
Well, the light, the brighter it gets, the bigger the shadow.
So the seventh one, you have to experience wrong ones, I believe, to know what you want. I mean, some lucky people can just be born like ready to meet their divine counterpart or whatever. But for most people, you have to go through those karmic relationships to grow and kiss a few frogs until you find your prince or princess or whatever.
Yeah, those are the lessons that help you understand, I think, when it comes back to understanding all the different steps, especially ones of like knowing what you want. Mm-hmm. And then that you want one, it's like, okay, I've been through these. That was not what I wanted. That was not my experience. So it's like, now, yeah, that's what I want.
But yeah, because like for instance, when I was like 13, I thought I wanted a man with long hair who was into punk rock, who, skateboarded and was anti-establishment. Now at 26, not so much. That sounds like a freaking nightmare, but I had to date those people to know what I wanted. And like, it's been like that through each stage of my life. And that's how it is for most people. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at my relationships, it was always like, I kind of wanted like the idea of what like kind of this perfect Palladian, princess would be, or even because I was in the reality days and in the TV days, like kind of the perfect TV kind of like vibe.
Yeah.
And so like I had that in relationships, and then I'm like, man, I actually am, I always say I kind of felt like a raptor next to a flower, like, I'm like, what? Like, and that's not a negative thing, but I learned, you learn through that stuff.
But a lot of it is social conditioning, what you find attractive in a partner. It is like, we're so socially conditioned with social media, the media telling us what the ideal person is. But when it comes down to it, you can have that like list perfect person, but then there might be something missing. And if there is, then you're basing your whole love life off of this list. And like, I love lists, but it doesn't work for love. Do you know what I mean? Like, great on paper, not so much in real life. Kind of a nightmare in real life, at least on my end.
I mean, it's the same thing. I actually, had what I thought was my list, and it didn't turn out the way that I want to. I don't think it's anything against the person that the idea of the list was. I think it's a reflection on pride and ego and this identification of like, I have this, so why is it not working? So obviously, like, there's something that I'm doing wrong, or and then you can create, I think, your own kind of self-sabotage on your own self, right? And then you can feel like you get stuck. And those relationships are the ones that finally get you to a point to where it's like, it reminds me of the Ten of Swords. It's like, how many times is you going to keep going through this when it's already been hashed out? I mean, that's a very intense card, it's a dead body with 10 swords in it. I always say, like, it's like, how many times are you going to keep sticking the fork in the broccoli? You know what I mean? Good. Of course, but like, if you keep sticking your fork in it, it won't be kind of nice and firm and tender. It'll be all like all jumbled up.
And those people teach you what you do want when you figure out what's missing too, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful part.
Like, you can think you're in love with someone, they're your type, but then you're realizing, wait, I'm a mess. The other person I'm dating, they can't be a artistic mess either, because then where is their structure? There is no structure. It's just like a giant explosion of mess everywhere. So then you realize, oh, I actually need someone who's structured. Or, oh, I'm too structured. They're too structured. I need excitement. So then you realize, oh, I actually need someone who is a little crazy,
Yeah, and I think it's important with this subject that when you're in the right new vibe of a relationship, that you don't judge your partner for what they've been through with those relationships, right? Like, it's like, because that creates, again, now you're worried so much about what they went through or what their situation was like. It's like, they learned their lessons, and all that matters is where you're going and where the mission is. And so that's part of it too, is learning to, not have this whole entire grand, like, I need to investigate this person and why they were in that one and so much to the point to where you become kind of obsessed with that too.
I think that when you meet the right person, you don't need to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't feel them. You don't care.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you just know.
You get people though that'll like be kind of obsessed with like the past of it, or you yourself, if that's all you want to keep talking about too, right? Like, that's not going to be good for your partner.
Yeah.
Right.
I think because you won't be worried.
It'll just be like that's old karma that's been burned out. Like,
that's how you know when you're not like obsessed over their ex or what they've done. So the 8th sign is, there's no perfect synastry. I used to say there was with numerology and astrology. Like, there really isn't. Just throw that out the window.
No, because I mean, honestly, as an astrologer for so long, and like over 10 years doing personal readings, like, I've done so many, like thousands upon thousands of relationship readings. And there is never, the way that the planets are, there's no such thing as perfect synastry. You're always going to see negative aspects. And you're always going to see in composite charts, which, if you don't know what that is, it's taking the midpoints between two people's charts. Midpoints are, like, let's say you had your moon in Aries and they had their moon in Cancer. You're going to find the midpoint of the moon. So it'll put your composite chart as like the moon. And let's say in that case, it would be like somewhere probably in right where Taurus, Gemini meet, right in between, right? Depending on the degrees and so forth. So you're always going to have to know that everybody's going to have good and bad qualities. And no matter how many I've done, you'll see something amazing and then you'll be like, but there's that negative thing. And it's like, we're all negative things in astrology or in even like, let's say a tarot reading, right? It's not like always got to be 10 of cups and 9 of cups and, you know, all those like the most perfect things. Sometimes some of those, like if we're taking it from a card example, like some of those little weird cards actually add some kind of excitement or edge to it a little bit, and some positive tension of growth, and also where you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to learn from that area.
Yes, I totally agree. Because if you're with someone where there's no tension because you're so similar, it is so boring. So you could think you want someone, like, for instance, let's say you're introverted like me. You could think, I want someone who's introverted like me, who does art like me, who thinks like me. But then you get in a relationship with that. There's no tension. It's just like the same of everything. There's no growth because you can't learn from that other person because you're the same. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and I think that people get caught up on, I think it's good to go get astrology reading still and to go look up your synastry, go look up your composite. There's also Davison chart, which actually is taking the birthday of each person and finding the in-between birthday and even the time. And that's actually the outer part of the relationship, what it looks like. And a composite is the soul. So if you were to take like a soul of the relationship, like a third energy, that would be the soul of a relationship. That's the composite chart. And then the Davison is like an actual physical person. So when we think of Megxit, or we think of like Brad and Angelina, like Bradgelina, or like any of that stuff, that's a Davison chart. You know, it's kind of like that third energy. If you were to combine two people and put them as one person, as a physical being, you would kind of look at it that way. And then synastry is just like, okay, this is where the souls like connect, like sun moon connections.
Yeah.
But if it's a masculine moon, a masculine person with a moon in a feminine sign, or the moon, right? And then the feminine is the masculine sun, that could almost feel like the woman energy or the feminine energy is kind of dominating the male, or vice versa. Or if like you have a feminine energy with a lot of masculine and the masculine has a lot of feminine, like, you know, it could be that way.
Yeah, but so don't like take the guy you're dating's birth chart and like look at his sun and be like, oh my God, we're two different elements. But I have noticed that a lot of divine couples do have the same element in their sign, like so many, like either they're both air signs or earth signs or water signs or fire signs. But obviously that's not the case for all of them, just the ones that I've seen. But
yeah, and I do want to make this point, it's a little off subject, but like, so in Vedic astrology, there's the nakshatra system, okay? But there's amazing astrologers out there. Like one of them is Viktakara. And what he's done is he's taken, and he's found in the Vedas that they talk about tropical, meaning that you always, the 0 point of Aries is of course on the equinox. But he moved the nakshatra system, which is every 13 degrees, there's this system that actually like gives much more detail to that area of the zodiac, and moved them and progressed them basically to where, those are the stars, the sidereal stars, and moved them over. And so when you get the energy of like relationships and stuff, and especially even in tropical, the star Regulus, which is the heart of the lion, okay, has moved into Virgo. Every 72 years, the star Regulus moves 1 degree. So that's why 500 years ago, the star Regulus was at like this very powerful place in Leo. In 2012, it moved into Virgo, that's where Venus is at its detriment or its fall position, right? So that's where this is becoming a very different service-oriented love aspect of life.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that service
to humanity, or
yeah, that's what Virgo represents, right? Like purity of service, of doing something that, you know, might not be about all the money in the world or anything like that, but purely from wanting to do that help and service, that's where you're going to find that amazing love. And also it's the raw, authentic aspect of Virgo, right? Like Virgo is much more just realistic about reality and life. And it doesn't put on some sort of show. Like that's the thing, is if you notice now in today's world, the show of love, right? The wedding pictures to the, oh my God, it's our anniversary. Everybody makes it the biggest show they can. But now that the star Regulus, which of course Leo is love and Regulus is the heart of the lion in Virgo now, that the show of love is through service now in a beautiful way. But it's going to be a hard transition for a lot of people who have been stuck in literally thousands of years of Regulus and Leo. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that Leo is still not Leo. It just means that the energy of the fixed star on the ecliptic that rules that heart.
So it's no longer just for love, it's for service to humanity.
Yeah, and the Star Regulus also rules like royalty. So that's why you're seeing the new royalty are service people. Why do you think even the Megxit thing, they're going to go do service and they're getting more attention as, even though they're not royals anymore, but they're getting more attention as like, wow, they're going to go be the common man. That's what Virgo represents.
Yeah.
That is the energy.
People who do things to help others.
Right. So I think that's a big part to remember.
Yeah.
Too.
That's beautiful. Yay, twin flame time. So yeah.
So this is the juicy part.
What juicy part? Oh, updates. Yeah, so I was in a false twin flame relationship, just like everyone else during this time, where I thought we had a mission together. I thought that they were my other half and we were going to be the next Ed and Lorraine Warren, a paranormal couple, because that's always been my like fantasy. But it just turned out we had different paths. I was passionate about astrology and the occult and getting that message out there, and he's somebody who was passionate about other things. Like it was, you know, something to do with art, but it just wasn't the same path. And eventually all we had left was like the status of a relationship. And so that is yeah, that's why I haven't been updating you guys, and it's been hard. And a lot of you guys have been asking me, oh, Star, why do you look so skinny? Why do you look sad? I've just been going through a lot in relationships because I'm a hopeless romantic and I'm a sucker. And, you know, I just went through the ringer just like a lot of other people out there. But I'm good now. And that's why I wanted to make this video, was to help other people. And I hope it did. So you could tell the difference. And
what do you think was the main thing you learned from that relationship?
What I want and what I don't want, for sure. Yeah.
Pretty clear.
And that's what's been going on with me. And now I'm learning astrology from this guy.
Yeah, and I my life.
Yeah, tell me.
I mean, I went through.
Give us the tea.
You want the tea?
Yeah.
So my last marriage that ended, I'm sure people know who she is. I don't have to say her name, but you know, she was from Canada. We met on Instagram, so you know, it was a very like a relationship I'd never been through in my life before, and you know, we got married, and she was able to move here. And I was doing this. I've been doing this since, well, I started on Soul Guard in 2009 and then made it my own thing in 2011. And then finally did a daily horoscope every day in 2012. So I've been doing this work for a long time. So when we met in 2016, it was like, you know, I was doing all this. And she was, of course, interested in doing all this and had learned some with her mom and stuff. But, you know, for me, it was hard because it was like trying to, you know, like be like, oh, you can do this too. You got this, you know? And it was difficult to kind of wait for that to happen. And so we had, and plus, you know, when somebody's from another country and you get engaged within 3 months and having them move in here and, you know, come to a new country and come into your life, like that's it's a little different than like meeting somebody and it might go quick. But when it's a different country and you're having to go through the government and the visa process and all that stuff, it's a lot.
You should have went on 90 Day Fiance. All the YouTubers do. All the YouTubers go on TLC.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that was a lot of, you know, and there was a lot that was learned there. And
did you ever think you were twin flames?
You know, we never talked about that. No, but, you know, her and I got deep into some past life stuff, and it kind of felt like an arranged marriage spiritually, you know? And so my lesson of my 2 relationships of the last decade were, you know, really to ignite the spirit within both of them to go do this work. And they both do it, and I think they're both amazing people for it. So and I'm glad that I was, I don't even want to say the catalyst. I don't want to say that I'm the one who did it, but I just want to say that I was the one inspiring it or being passionate about it and saying, and being a cheerleader for it. But for what I realized is that in my future, in my relationships, like I don't want to have to hold that role anymore. Like I want to be able to be with somebody who's already knows it, already is in it, and is already taking those bold steps of doing it. And so it was very hard to, deal with those relationships. And yeah,
they weren't in vain. They were for a purpose.
Of course.
Yeah. That's how all relationships are. They're for a purpose. All relationships are fated, but some are faded.
Exactly.
As opposed to a learning lesson or a...
Totally. And I think it's like with this new energy and the faded.
We're in it.
It's like we're in it now. And there's a knowing that's just beyond where the other relationships in the past, it's almost like you almost didn't know. You almost went off this more instinctual, like animalistic kind of energy, right? Like of just like, I'm just doing this. And I think that when Star and I were putting this list together, there were little things like, I feel that it's the same pattern you notice in all your old relationships, right? Like it's like the same way you enter, the same way that you go through it. And then there's like kind of a similar energy of the kick out, right? Of like the relationship energetically. But I feel like with this new faded, it's going to feel a little different because you're going to be actually meeting yourself in a way that you are going to be like, I'm going into this in a way I've never gone into this before. I've never felt like this before. And this is, and it's true spiritual growth, like stepping up to the test. Like it's going to make you step up in ways you've never felt. Because it's not going to be the same thing that you've ever done before. It's not going to have a similar... Like, okay, it's almost like you drive a car, right? You get in your car, you know how to drive it. You can get in a rental car and drive it. This is going to be like driving a plane that you've never flown a plane before. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, but you've always wanted to be a pilot, And
one more thing, you can manifest it by just making the intention to be in alignment with your highest, most truest path.
Yeah, and I believe that with fate, it just naturally will find its way. No,
because sometimes you can block it out by not being like energetically ready to be on your highest path. So you can actually block it from coming. So in order to like remove that block, all you have to do is just set the intention of, I'm going to release control and let the universe or God help me become in alignment with my highest path and my destined person. That's all you have to do. No love spell, no writing it over 50 times. Mm-hmm. Just set the intention.
And I think it comes as a surprise too.
Mm-hmm. It's that easy.
But with like and I think the domino understanding of like, and I know nobody probably plays with dominoes, and I never really did either. We only people order Domino's pizza. That's about it now. But Pizza Girl. There's that domino effect where it's like you can see all the setup in destiny that's been going on through your whole life, whether you go into past life stuff, but you'll notice like there were all these things that were leading it to there slowly that you just go, whoa, this is why. And it's like all the roads intersect at one space. And then you're kind of like, I'm here. Whoa.
So good luck to everyone out there. I hope you find yours. I think that's all we have today. This is a long video. We're going to have to edit a lot. Thank you for coming on my channel.
No, thanks for having me. Means a lot. And good luck to you all out there. Actually, you don't even need luck, to be honest.